Chapter 37-31. The first is here. Kill. Relying on the oppression of Hitami in the realm of magic sand, Zhen Wushuang came to Hitami again. The fierce Zhenguang, with unstoppable momentum, continued to crush towards Hitami. The pupil can only resist reluctantly, but it is more and more difficult. Under the suppression of the magic sand field, it is obviously impossible for him to leave from the front of the sword without two sides by normal means. The Lord of the Blood Sword, this time you counted you as fierce, this seat will remember you. Hitami shouted with gritted teeth, followed by a sudden burst of blood and blood on him. Bang rong. The main body of Hitami is agitated and the volume is larger than before, but the breath of divine power emanating from him is obviously weakened. Call out. A burst of blood flashed out abruptly, leaving a shadow of blood in the void. The main figure of Hitami rushed out of the area covered by this magic sand field, and soon disappeared into the sight of Zhen Wushuang. Have you escaped? Zhen's eyes flickered a little, but not surprised. He is very clear that his strength reaches the level of Hitami, and it is completely impossible to kill him alone, and Hitami is wantonly in this star field for so many years, the number of offending powers is countless, but he arrives they are still alive and well, naturally they have life-saving cards. Just now, the pupil is obviously performing a life-saving mystery, and this time he left directly. It's not bad to be able to force him to perform life-saving secrets. Zhen Wushuang smiled. And the masters of the many rules watching the surroundings saw the pupils turn into blood and left, and they all booed. Escape, Hitami, he even managed to escape by using his life-saving technique? Well, domineering, but also a very powerful master, but facing a ruler today, he can only use life-saving techniques to escape? This is too ridiculous. Indeed, in this battle, Hitami has really lost his face. As for the master of the blood sword, he has crushed Hitami positively in a state of rule, and forced Hitami to use only life-saving techniques to escape. The record is enough to be proud of this star field. From today, I am afraid that the reputation of the Lord of the Blood Sword will reach a new peak. Around the battlefield, the eyes of many rulers were staring at Zhen Wushuang tightly. In that look, in addition to shock and awe, there was even a touch of worship. You know, they are all rulers. It's respectful to see the Lord on weekdays, but the dignified Lord that the Lord of the Blood Sword can fight can only use life-saving secrets to escape. How can we not let these rulers worship? In the middle of the battlefield, Zhen Wushuang has taken Huang Quan's Excalibur back to the scabbard, and the Ghost of the Bones and the Idiot have also come to Zhen Wushuang. Haha, Zhan Tianhu, you can really surprise my husband today. The ghostly ghost has a hearty smile on his face, his tiny eyes narrowed slightly, and a strange color flickered. Although the husband is also a rule lord, but in the face of the master, you can only rely on some special means to protect yourself, and a master you can kill can only use the life-saving mystery to escape. Oh, terrific, terrific. Even if it's a ghost, I can't help but praise it. Mengu's predecessor is polite. In fact, my strength is not much stronger than that of the pupil. He has the strongest armor of the treasure. Even if he does not escape, he will stay and fight with me. I can't kill him. Zhen Wushuang laughed. That's the story, but you're still amazing. Jiyu Guige said. Yes, a ruler can do this step. I'm afraid that in the history of this starfield, you are the first person in the Bloodsword Master. The Idiot Master couldn't help it. The first person in history? Zhen Wushuang shook his head. Others don't know, but he is very clear. His master Shen Yi, when he was the ruler of the rule, relied on the town monument. The combat power was comparable to the top master. However, his current combat power is still relatively strong among the higher masters, but it is still far worse than the top masters. Mingu, thank you for your shot this time. If you did stop your pupil for a while, I am afraid that the Idiot Master has already died in the pupil's hands. When I arrive, the pupil may be too early. I got the treasure and left. Zhen Wushuangdao. Haha, it's just a hand-raising work, not enough to talk about, not to mention that the old man also got a top-tier treasure armor from the master of that pupil, which can be considered a small gain. The Bone monster laughed casually. Zhen Wushuang nodded slightly. Zhen Wushuang also knows something about the old bones. Although he is not a person in the Shingong Palace, He is from the early world of God. And he also knew the ultimate secrets of the divine realm in the beginning of the early days, so the Wraith and the Sword Palace and the Sword Unparalleled themselves are naturally in the same camp. Because of this, in the early world of the gods, the ghostly monsters will help this time and again. This time in the Red Cloud realm, the Ghost Bone monster saw the threat of the idiot of the Shingong Palace, and also directly assisted. By the way, Senior Soul Bone, are you alone in this Red Cloud world? What about the Meteorite King? Jian Wushuang asked. The Meteorite King is the master that Jian Wushuang saw in the early world of the gods. He is a friend of the Old Bones and has a relationship with Jian Wushuang. Meteorite has also come to the Red Cloud realm, but you also know that there are 7 continents in the Red Cloud realm. Although the old man and him entered the Red Cloud realm at the same time, they have already dispersed. He is now on the first continent. Vandalism, the old man is in this third continent. Wu Guwei strange. Is that so? Sword Unparalleled. Jian Tianhu, do you think that the pupil's behavior this time is a little weird? The Ghost Bone monster suddenly asked. Strange. Jian Wushuang frowned and said subconsciously, in this star field, Master Tong is a well-known faceless and unreasonable person. He is only profitable, and he sees that the master of the idiot has got a top realm category treasure. Heart rises greedily and rushes to snatch, which does not seem to be wrong. In the years that Master Tong has been in the 3 major battlefields, because there are many examples of treasures shooting against the ruler, his shots against the master of the idiot this time seem to be normal. The old man just thought that when he gave me the top Arcana Warframe, it was a bit more refreshing, but it may also be because he liked the clean fire array of the idiot master, so he handed over one so easily. Top Arcana Warframe. The Ghost Bones also think that they may have thought more, and they have not continued to struggle with this problem. Jian Tianhu, when the incident is over, the old man will leave. The Ghostly Bone monster soon left with Jian Wushuang. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 37-32. Second more. After the Ghost Bones left, the battlefield void left only the 2 masters, Jian Wushuang and Jiyu Kaiguchi. Thank the Lord of the Blood Sword for his life-saving grace. You are the master of the rules of my star house, and I should save you. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, but the master of the idiot, this time because I'm not too far away from you, and coupled with the seniors of the bones shot midway, you will be able to support me to come, but if I encounter such a crisis next time, I may not be able to catch up. So you must be careful when you are in the Red Cloud realm in the future. After all, there are a lot of masters here. Although you have the ultimate combat power of the 6 realms and the protection of the net of fire, but the master level, if the strongest of them can shoot with all their strength, they can still kill you. If you die, my star palace will go to 1 or 6 realms of extreme combat power, which is a trivial loss. I understand. The master of Gucci focused his head. He was a little too confident in the beginning, to be precise, to underestimate him. He thought that he had the guard of the pure fire method. Even if the master-level strong shot himself, he might not be able to kill him, so before the pupil arrived, and asked him to hand over the top realm of treasure, he was out of selfishness, unwilling to surrender. But he almost died. And if he honestly handed over the top field class treasure from the beginning, it may not be the next thing. Of course, this is also because they don't know the real intention of the pupil. In short, everything is important. Supreme treasure is important, but your life is worth more than precious treasure. Jian Wushuang urged again before leaving. The sword Wushuang has gone, and the rulers who have been around the battlefield have also dispersed. Immediately after dispersing, the rulers of these rules immediately informed the forces, astral planes, or friends of each other of the battle they had just seen. 10 to 10, 100 to 10, not long after, many powerful people in this star domain all know the shocking world war. For a time, countless strong people in this star field shook it. No way, this battle is too amazing. It can even be said that it was a bit strange. Who is Hitami? That is the vertical and horizontal star field, which has caused many powerful people to suffer. It can be said that the super character has been running in this star field. His strength cannot be said to be too strong among the masters. After all, he cannot be said to be a true higher master, but the key is that he has many treasures and means. He has the strongest attacking soldier of the treasure, and the strongest armor of the strongest treasure. This alone is destined that the High Master can't help him. There were more than one high-level masters who had shot, not to kill him, but just to give him a lesson, but those high-level masters could not do it. Because even a high master can hardly hurt him. Only the top masters are eligible to let the pupils bow their heads, but only just bow their heads. If the top master comes to kill him personally, he may not be able to kill him. And this is a superhero. This time, he has planted a big heel. Planted in the hands of Jian Wushuang, the ruler of every rule. The dignified pupil hit the front and was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang, even under Jian Wushuang's one sword. While defeating the main attack of Tong, he also vomited blood. In the end, the pupil was forced to use his life-saving mystery to escape. What strength is this? High Master, the Lord of the Blood Sword, at least has the power of the High Master. The High Master is sure, and it seems that his combat power is very strong even among the High Masters. It belongs to the top group, and only then can he fight the strongest treasure of the front. The pupil of the Protector vomits blood. The Lord of the Blood Sword, what the is going on? Isn't he the Lord of the Rules? How could the power be so terrible? He is indeed still the main level of rules. There is no doubt that as to why he is so strong, it is unknown, but not surprisingly, it may be related to his special opportunity in life and death. Yes, the Lord of the Blood Sword was originally not very famous, and the strength of the Lord of the Rules was not very strong, but because he had stayed in the territory of life and death for nearly 100,000 years, he came out as himself. The Force directly defeated the 5 strongest players in the 6 realms, and became the strongest among the masters of the rules of the astral domain, but now it has not passed for more than 10,000 years, and his combat power has even surpassed the High Master. No doubt, he must have gotten an incredible chance in that life and death. The question is, what did he get in life and death? Who knows? After all, after this war, I can no longer treat the Lord of the Blood Sword as the ruler of the rule. He must be treated as the master, even the higher master. In this starfield, countless strong people were shaken by the amazing strength revealed by Jian Wushuang. Countless strong people have fallen into sensation because of Jian Wushuang's record. Countless strong men are madly discussing this matter, discussing Jian Wushuang. The name of the Lord of the Blood Swords, after another 10,000 years, smashed the entire starfield again. The difference is that his record this time is far more brilliant than last time, and the sensation caused by it is naturally greater. Within the red clouds. Haha, Jian Tianhu, congratulations, this time you are really famous for this starfield. The Celestial Alliance Master laughed and passed over the news. Heavenly friend, he has long been famous in this starfield, but this time he made a bigger movement and a bigger sensation. A ruler, but the pupil who killed it, fled his head and fled. Now this star field, I am afraid that all the masters of you already know that you exist, and they will remember you, and they will never dare to treat you in the future. No, I was a strong master in the 3 major battlefields before www.mtl Novel, and will now deliberately call me to ask about you. The Master of Time and Space also preached. Received a message from the Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Time and Space. Jian Wushuang only smiled slightly. He knew that since he had shot it, it would inevitably cause a lot of movement in this starfield. He had already been mentally prepared for this. Unfortunately, I originally planned to wait until the next time the strongest arcana shot was taken, and then tried my best to fight for it. This might allow me to take advantage of it and also beat those who had robbed me of arcana. I was caught off guard. A pupil, my strength was exposed in advance. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly, but he didn't care too much. Chapter 37-33. The first is here. When it is exposed, it is exposed. It is nothing more than a loss of some opportunities. It is not a big deal. The only thing that is more regrettable is that although I have made Mr. Hitami a follower this time, what I have said is that I lost only some faces and a top-level treasure. This loss is not much to Mr. Hitami. It is not enough to make the pupil really distressed, and it is estimated that he will not have much fear. And if this time did not make Mr. Hitami afraid of him, then Mr. Hitami will inevitably not wait for the opportunity to take revenge. Although Jian Wushuang himself would not care about Hitami's revenge, Xinggong cares. Shaking his head, Jian Wushuang did not think about it. Tianhu Xiaoyu, do you still plan to go to that sword stone to enlighten you? The Lord of Time and Space asked suddenly. Well. Jian Wushuang nodded. The sword art contained in that sword stone is extremely exquisite, but my help is very great. That being the case, then you can continue to enlighten you, and if the strongest treasure in the Red Cloud Realm is born, we will send you a message to inform you. Okay. Jian Wushuang answered. It didn't take long for Jian Wushuang to return to Jianshu again. Because he left before, the position that originally belonged to him closest to the swordstone was already occupied by others, but Jian Wushuang's strength was placed there. As soon as he showed up, the other party immediately obeyed, and Jian Wushuang sat down in front of the sword, and then continued to fall into the enlightenment of the fourth sword art in sword stone. In a flash, 3,000 years have passed. In these 3,000 years, the number of precious treasures born in the Red Cloud Realm is countless. Even the strongest precious treasures have been born a total of 3. However, these 3 strongest treasures were all just attacking the magic soldier, and were finally obtained by 3 different masters. As for the Lord of Time and Space and the Lord of the Heavens and the Alliance, in the 3,000 years, each of the top treasures got 1, but the strongest treasure did not. This is also their bad luck. The 3 born were the strongest treasures, and only 1 was born on the 6th continent of Zhejian Alliance, but the place of birth was extremely far away from the place of Xianshan Alliance. But when the Xianshan Alliance arrived, the strongest treasure has already fallen into the hands of a terrible high-level master, and it is natural that the Lord of the Sky can no longer compete. In these 3,000 years, the 3rd continent seemed relatively calm, and no strongest treasure was born. It was only the peak of the highest treasure that was born. Although it also caused fierce battles, it did not reach the battle between the powerful and the dead. To the point. As for Jian Wushuang, in the past 3,000 years, he has been staying in front of the swordstone, and has been studying the 4th sword technique contained in that swordstone, so as to perfect his protection of the earth. After more than 3,000 years of enlightenment, his understanding of Kendo has been improved, and the origin of Kendo universe can be more. The most important thing is the protection of the earth. With his continuous improvement, and finally reached its limit almost. Under Jian Shu, Jian Wushuang's eyes have opened again. After more than 3,000 years of enlightenment, countless deductions in my mind, I have already perfected the trick of Guardian of the Earth to the extreme that I can achieve now. Even if the sword technique contained in this swordstone is to me it's still unpredictable, but I see it continue to improve. Jian Wushuang secretly said. In the deduction of the protection of the earth, he has indeed reached the extreme. If you want to make further progress and continue to improve, it is very difficult to rely on the sword technique in the swordstone. He must first improve his understanding of Kendo. As the Kendo understanding becomes higher and higher, can continue to improve. But we must know that Jian Wushuang's current understanding of Kendo is actually very high, and has long exceeded the normal level of domination. Based on this foundation, the protection of the earth, the sword of the encouraging body, has been deduced to the extreme. How defensive will this sword be? Jian Wushuang did not know, but he had a bottom. At least the average elementary, even the high master, could not defeat him in this sword. As for whether the top dominator can be defeated directly, it is unknown. Before me, although swordplay was pretty good, but all I was good at was attacking and killing swordplay. If I met a strong man with similar strength, swordplay like me could occupy some advantages, but if I encountered that kind of strength the mighty one who is far above me, will not be of much use to my sword skills. But now with the trick of guarding the earth, even if I meet a strong person whose power is far above me, although I can't beat him, the other party wants to completely crush me, I'm afraid it's not so easy now. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. After 3,000 years of enlightenment under this sword stone, it seems that his strength has not been much improved, but in fact, these 3,000 years of enlightenment have made him perfect the trick of guarding the earth, which makes his sword skills become more perfect than before. In the future, he can attack and defend with swordsmanship. Whether he encounters similar strengths or meets stronger ones, he can handle them. This gain is even more rare than his ability to make progress. I have to thank those who left words on this sword stone. Jian Wushuang looked at the sword stone in front of him. On the sword stone, the 4 huge golden characters exude an extremely ancient and special atmosphere. Each of the 4 golden characters contains an inscrutable sword technique. For more than 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang has only comprehended one of them, that is, the sword of body protection. But in fact, the other 3 attack swordsmanship are equally incomparable, but unfortunately Jian Wushuang did not intend to continue enlightenment. I have been enlightened under this sword stone for so many years, and I have already harvested enough. I should also be satisfied. The Red Cloud Realm has only been opened for 10,000 years after all. I have to stay in this Red Cloud Realm for the rest of the time. Breakthrough. Jian Wushuang chuckled. If he was outside and had enough time, he wouldn't mind continuing to enlighten. But here is after all in the Red Cloud Realm. There are many opportunities in the Red Cloud Realm, but not only this kind of swordstone. Jian Wushuang naturally cannot spend all the time on the enlightenment of swordsmanship in this sword stone. Leave it. Jian Wushuang stood up, looked at the sword stone at last, and then immediately turned to leave. But he just turned around. A majestic breath suddenly burst out from the surrounding void. This breath of treasure is so powerful that it sweeps all directions almost instantly. In this huge world, time began to tremble. Remember the first domain name in this book. 3 heads of mobile version reading URL, M. Chapter 37-34. Second more. The sudden outbreak of the treasure atmosphere naturally attracted Jian Wushuang for the first time, as well as the masters of nearly 100 rules of kendo who came to enlighten kendo before this sword stone. Suddenly, all the rulers of the hundreds rose up. Jian Wushuang also looked up, looking at the source of the most precious breath. It was very close to where he was, very close. With the willful release of his soul power, he instantly covered a 100,000-mile radius, but less than 50,000 miles directly in front of him. The source of the treasure breath, Jian Wushuang saw a heavy appearance in the center of the earth. There was a huge blood-colored vortex, and in that blood-colored vortex, there were a pair of dark-colored Moran wings, which were slowly extending out. Wings. Flying class treasure. And this breath. Even if it was Jian Wushuang, when you felt the precious breath from the black wings and the great movement around it, you could no longer suppress the inner shock and surprise. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang immediately burst out at the fastest speed, rushing towards the location of the black wing. Not only him, but at the same time, the hundreds of rulers who had come to enlighten kendo before this sword stone all swarmed towards the location of the black wings like a wasp. However, Jian Wushuang's speed was obviously much faster than the general rule, and soon he came to the void around the huge blood swirl. And he was also the first person to come here. Standing in the void around the blood swirl, Jian Wushuang's eyes were like electricity, staring at the black wings slowly emerging from the blood swirl, his body trembling with excitement. Sure enough, it really is the strongest treasure. The sword Wushuang held both hands fiercely. The strongest cosmic treasure, but also a flying treasure like the wings. You should know that among all cosmic treasures, the value of this treasure is naturally different because the role of each species is different. One of the strongest cosmic treasures is undoubtedly enough to cause the masters to frantically compete. And one of the most powerful universe arcana warframe is enough to make many masters crazy, regardless of it. But now, the black wings that emerged from the vortex appearing in front of the sword without double sides are obviously one of the strongest flying treasures. Flying class. On the value, it is even higher than arcana warframe, and it can be comparable to the strongest domain arcana. Such a treasure, if not born in this red cloud world, but placed elsewhere in this starfield, is enough to cause a sensation throughout the starfield. I am the first person to come around this black wing, but unfortunately, this wing has not yet been completely born. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. In this world of red clouds, the birth of Jibao requires a certain period of time to brew. And this black wing is the strongest flying class treasure, and it is not unexpected that it will be born longer. Although he is the first to arrive here now, I'm afraid it won't be long before a large number of strong men arrive. Anyway, we must find a way to get this wing. Jian eyes were hot, and he immediately came up with a summons order. Cut the sky, time and space. I have the strongest flying class Jibao born here, and it is just around me. I was the first to arrive at the scene of Jibao born. Jian Wushuang rumored, what? The strongest flying class treasure? The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Space and Time immediately shook. After the shock, there was an unprecedented ecstasy. Jian Tianhu, the strongest flying treasure is even more precious than the strongest treasure, and if you can get such a treasure, then the three of us can be regarded as a worthwhile trip in this red cloud world. Now, you have to find a way to get the strongest flying class treasure. The Celestial Alliance leader excited. Yes, the strongest flying treasure is too important. If you have one of these treasures in the future, your life-saving ability will definitely be upgraded to a whole new level. Even if the Lord of the Devil Star arrives in person in the future, it may not be I have the absolute certainty to kill you. The Lord of Time and Space was also very excited. I know, but this flying class, the strongest treasure, is so precious. It will certainly be extremely fierce when I compete for it. I don't know if I can get it. Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. It is not that he is not confident. But the strongest flying class treasure is too precious, enough to cause the masters to lose their minds, let alone the masters of those rules. And the strongest flying class Jibao must have been born for a long time, coupled with the large movements, it must attract more powerful people. The dominant power on this third continent will probably be alarmed. In this environment, it is really not easy to get the strongest flying treasure. Besides, even if he is lucky, he can really keep the strongest flying class treasure and can really keep it, it is still a question. No matter what, you first try to get the flying strongest treasure, and I and Zetian will come to your third continent at the fastest speed. Zetian is farther away from you, and may be a bit more diffused, but in my case, it can be reached in half a day. Okay. The sword has no double focus. The master of Spacetime Palace Sword Wushuang knows about time and space. If he is by his side, at least he will be more convenient to escape. Of course, all this is empty talk now. After all, the black wings have not really been born, and he has not really got the black wings. At this moment, attracted by the movement of the birth of the black feathers, more than 200 strong men rushed to the periphery of this vortex. The main reason is that the place where the black feathers were born was too close to the sword stone. The black feathers were born, and the news spread out. Almost all the rulers of the rule below the sword stone arrived. When they arrived, they naturally saw the level of the black wings for the first time. The strongest treasure, this breath is definitely the strongest treasure. Black wings, this is the strongest flying treasure. The strongest treasure is still an extremely rare flying class, Around the bloody vortex, the masters of more than 200 rules have all turned red. Under those red eyes, the desire and madness were all entrained. At the same time, the rulers of these rules immediately conveyed this matter to the powerful men who can reach the fastest speed on this third continent. For a time, the entire third continent and even the entire Red Cloud realm shook completely. I recommend a very good book for everyone. Meticulously written. I am not an ordinary person. Be sure to remember to read it. Wonderful, cannot miss it. Remember the first domain name in this book. 3 heads of mobile version reading URL, M. Chapter 37-35. The first is here. The strongest treasure is precious. The strongest flying treasure is even more crazy. When I learned that the strongest flying class was born, many of the strongest people on this third continent were crazy. Countless powerful people, including those who rushed on the third continent, dominated, regardless of the distance from the place of birth or the nearest. Quickly rushed over. For a while, the vortex had become the focus of the entire Red Cloud world. The speed at which the black feathers were born was too slow. Although Jian Wushuang was the first to arrive at this birthplace, as time passed, when the black wings broke out of the vortex by 2/3, there were already more than 500 strong men gathered around. More than 500 people, although all rulers, are difficult to pose a threat to Jian Wushuang, but the number of them is there, and Jian Wushuang cannot be completely ignored. Moreover, the black wing has not yet been completely born, and there is still a steady stream of powerful people arriving from all sides. Although Jian Wushuang is only a ruler, there is no doubt that he is definitely the focus of all rulers present. The Lord of the Blood Sword. Damn, the Lord of the Blood Sword is here, and now it's very difficult for us to fight for the Black Wings. Well, even if the Lord of the Blood Sword is as powerful as the Lord, he will definitely not be able to get the Black Wings later. Every now and then strange eyes glanced from the sword Wushuangshan from time to time. There are more than 500 rulers who are present at the scene, and their strengths are strong and weak. But everyone knows that Sword Wushuang is the most terrifying existence among them. After the Black Wings are completely born, they will be the biggest threat to the rulers. The Lord of these rules is very vigilant to me. Jian Wushuang noticed those eyes around him, and his eyes couldn't help narrowing. No way, before fighting with Hitomi to make him famous. Now everyone knows that his combat power can be comparable to that of the master, or even a higher master, which is by no means comparable to the rule of the master. Under the premise that everyone present is only the ruler, and no one has dominated the scene, he is naturally the most noticeable. It will be some time before the birth of that wing, although more powerful people will come here during this time, but if all the rulers come, and there is no one who dominates the class, then this Black Wings, I'm sure I can get my hands, I'm afraid I will be dominated by the master. Jian Wushuang frowned secretly. The ruler of the rule, unless it can burst out of the general dominating power in a short time like the Emperor Tutu, there is no more worry. Jian Wushuang is not worried. The ruler of these rules cannot stop him now. But it would be different if a dominating powerhouse was present. Okay. The sword has no sudden change of color on both sides. Damn, what are you afraid of? Jian Wushuang looked up and looked to the side of the void. The power of his soul had sensed an extremely powerful breath, and was coming at a terrible speed. Only momentarily appeared around the vortex, a golden figure slowly emerged. This is a tall man wearing a golden armor, boots, and a golden axe behind him. The tall man's narrow eyes had a faint golden light in his eyes. When he came to the periphery of the blood swirl, he looked at the Black Wings that were slowly breaking out from the core of the blood swirl. A trace of fanaticism. Axe. Dominated by the axe. He even came. The rulers around them saw a commotion immediately when they saw the people. Countless glances came at this golden figure, most of them with fear and awe. Dominated by the axe, in this star domain, he is also a high-profile master with great fame and strength. He is also a leader of one side of the power. I was just worried about the presence of a dominating powerhouse, and as a result, one came immediately and was still a high master. Watching the dominating axe dominate, the sword has no two-sided color sinking slightly. A high master is already qualified to stop him. Not to mention that it is for the treasure, even if it is a fierce battle, he has no absolute confidence that he can surpass the long-established bull axe in front of him. You know, the axe master has the name, because his axe is extremely overbearing and terrifying, and the power is also extremely arrogant. It seems my luck is pretty good. I live in this third continent, and there are as many as 6 or 7 people, and I was the first one to arrive at the place where this flying strongest treasure was born. The power of the master's soul also sweeps the surrounding void, and no other master's breath is sensed. However, although the master did not have a breath that could not be ignored, he still had one. Is this the kid, the Lord of the Blood Sword? The dominator's gaze stared at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang also looked at him. The two eyes collided, faintly generating electricity in the void, but that's it. That Black Wing hasn't really been born yet, and there are so many rulers around, it is naturally impossible for them to fight first. I heard that the Lord of the Blood Sword defeated Hitomi in the front, and forced Hitomi to run away. It is somewhat capable, but then Hitomi is just an elementary master, but I am different. The Lord of the Blood Sword, I hope you won't block my way later, otherwise. Axe sneered. He didn't know that the sword is unparalleled at the moment, and he had the same thought in his heart. The Black Wing that is about to be freed from the vortex is the strongest flying treasure. For this treasure, Jian Wushuang is also determined to obtain it. Even if the dominant axe dominated the scene, Jian Wushuang will not have the slightest fear, and will fight for it later. The dominant axe dominates his way, and Jian Wushuang will even draw his sword. At the bottom of the vortex, the black feathers have been exposed, and they will soon be completely born. And there are more than 700 rulers gathered here at this moment, and some of them are amazingly famous and powerful. Fortunately, in addition to dominating the axe dominance, there is no second dominance. Beside the blood-colored vortex, the eyes of more than 700 strong men stared at the bottom of the vortex, staring at the black wings. So everyone is waiting for the complete birth of the black wings. Finally, the last part of the black wing was freed from the swirl, and the whole black wing rose completely. At the same time, the breath of the strongest treasure was also swept away instantly. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Dear, click in and give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that a beautiful wife was found at the end of the new score. Chapter 37-36. Second more. Born. At the moment when the black wing was completely freed from the vortex, more than 700 strong men were shaken around the vortex. Follow up. Oh. Huh. 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 The crowds of figures moved almost at the same time. Hurry up. The strongest flying class is mine. Whoever dares to stop me will kill anyone. For this wing, fight. More than 700 rulers on the field madly rushed towards the center of the vortex, that is, the black wings. Everyone burst out at their fastest speed, hoping that they would be the first to reach the black wing and put the black wing in the ring. As for the sword unparalleled, and the dominating axe on that side, it naturally moved for the first time. Jian Wushuang casts the shadowless puppet technique, and the strongest speed erupts completely. And at the moment he left. Magic Sand Realm. With a big wave of the sword, the endless black mad sand rolled up frantically, and in the blink of an eye, a huge black sand sea formed, covering the entire sky and the void. The void that is more than 10,000 miles away, including the most central vortex, is covered by black sand and sea, and naturally includes those rulers who rushed towards the black wings the first time. The terrible magic sand realm was oppressed, and the speed of all rulers who were present at the scene was greatly weakened. Peak in the top field. It is the magic sand realm of the Bloodsword Master. Damn, the suppression in this area is too strong. Those rulers were trapped in the realm of magic sand, and their speed decreased sharply, and their faces changed greatly. There are a few rulers who also take out the realm of treasure in their hands for the first time in an attempt to resist the impact of the magic sand realm. But we must know that the masters of these rules are the strongest in the 6 realms. What treasures can they have? It's not bad to have a top-class field treasure, but such a treasure, facing Jian Wushuang's magic sand field, does not have much resistance. As always, it is crushed and impacted. They still couldn't get back to their peak speed. However, among the many compulsions on the field, the only one that is not affected by the sword Wushuang magic sand field is dominated by the axe. The axe dominates, is the master, and is also a leader of one of the forces. He has many treasures in his hands. Although in the strongest treasure, there is only a golden axe in his hand, which can be the highest peak. He is almost all types of yes, he is also the owner of Pinnacle. I saw the vast blue sea of fire sweeping wildly, forming a blue sea of fire around the dominance of the dominating axe. This blue sea of fire released a terrifying atmosphere, colliding with the crazy impact of the black quicksand field cast by Jian Wushuang. For a while, there was no way to distinguish between strength and weakness. And because of the resistance of the blue sea of fire, the dominator's body was not subject to any oppression, and as the master, his speed was scary. At least, faster than Jian Wushuang. Not good. The sword has no double-sided color suddenly changed. He also found that he is not as fast as this dominating axe. Now the two of them are rushing towards the black wings from almost the same distance at the same time, but if the dominating axe is not obstructed by anything else, he will definitely rush to the black wings before him. And once the black wings fell into the hands of the dominating axe, it was too difficult to get it. Humph. Jian was eyes narrowed, and Huang Quan's Excalibur behind him instantly emerged. The icy black divine sword released the strongest treasure of Sen Lung. The divine power of the sword unparalleled erupted instantly, and the magical power of life and the sky-cutting technique were also performed immediately. Even the share of the will power given by the laws of the universe, Jian Wushuang did not use the slightest reservation at this moment. Spark burning sun. There was a flash of fierceness in Jian Wu's eyes. Wower! I saw a violent Zhenguang, who cut through the void in an instant, carrying the terrible power of earth-shattering, and beheaded at a faster speed towards the Lord of Naha axe. Want to stop me? Dominating the domineering axe, he naturally saw the sword light cut, but there was a slight disdain between his eyebrows. I saw the surging divine power rising to the sky in an instant. The figure of this dominating axe was almost in front of the black wings, and the palms of his left hands had been stretched out. Seeing that the black wings would be brought into the ring, at this moment, he didn't choose to retract his palm to face the sword of Jian Wushuang. Instead, the left hand continued to collect the black wings, while the right hand pulled out the golden axe behind him and waved at the sword light. Wow! A terrible axe, when it waved, caused a harsh sound explosion in the space. It's as if heaven and earth can't withstand the power of this axe, and it will be split directly by this axe. The higher master, raising his hand and throwing his feet, is shocking. Even though the domineering axe is not the strongest axe at this moment, the power is still extremely powerful, and it is reasonable to be able to repel the face even if it faces a primary master. However, the axe dominator is facing the sword strongest, who burst out with the strongest strength at the moment. Huh! Only a sound of roar from a distance sounded, and the terror was mad like a tide. The axe dominates the left palm of the hand is less than 3 meters away from the black wings. Such a short distance makes the axe dominate the face of the axe. He thought that the black feathers were his own aspirations. But in vain. A horrible power passed from the giant axe in his hand. What? The axe dominated his face, and his eyes were full of astonishment. At this moment, he felt the horrible power, which not only directly changed the direction of his big axe, but also acted on his deity for the first time, causing an overbearing extreme impact. The surface of the dominating axe dominates the body armor of the highest treasure, and in addition his own body is extremely arrogant. Such shocks will hardly cause damage to his body. However, although he would not be injured, the impact of such a force on his body still caused his body to fly involuntarily. Do not. The dominating axe gave a loud drink seeing that the black wings were about to fall into his hands, but as a result, his figure was getting farther and farther from the black wings. He was directly blasted back by the sword of warrior sword, although it was not far away, but when he regained his stature and decided to continue to snatch, sword warrior had already taken a step ahead of him before the black wings. With a wave of his hand, the black wings were put into the ring of Chen Kuan directly. It's here. In Jian Wu's eyes, there was a surge of excitement and ecstasy that could not be concealed. Chapter 37:37. The first is here. The black wings have already arrived, and although this battle is still going on, the next thing is much easier for Jian Wushuang. And the rulers who flocked around saw with their own eyes that Jian Wushuang put the black wings into the ring, and all of them suddenly became scarlet. That wing fell into the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword. Well, whether he is the Lord of the Blood Sword or not, dare to grab the wings and die. Kill him. The masters of these rules kill one by one. If the masters of these rules see Jian Wushuang in normal days, it must be a retreat without hesitation, and they dare not have a little bit of thought. But at this moment it is different. The rulers of these rules have been dazzled by the strongest flying treasure. Not to mention that only the ruler of the sword, Wushuang, is standing in front of them, and even if it is a real top master, they will probably shoot without hesitation. Boom! 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 I saw an overwhelming offensive that erupted at the same time. There are more than 700 rulers around, and at least half of them are now directly shooting at the sword unparalleled. The sky's offensive, including sword light, sword shadow, long whip, and mountains directly oppressed, etc., are all frontal attacks. There are also some masters of the rules who have used special attack methods or mysteries, such as some soul attacks, illusions, and some strange mystery effects. In short, Jian Wushuang is now completely reduced to the focus of attack by everyone present. So many, and all kinds of offensives swept from all directions. Even if they dominate the ranks, they dare not have the slightest bite. Although Jian Shuang's strength is strong, he cannot withstand the attacks of so many people at the same time. Boom! I saw a lot of mighty impact on Jian Wushuang's body without being hindered. Jian Wushuang is covered by violent power. But only for a moment. Humph! A cold hum, accompanied by Sen Leng's Zhenguang, directly wiped out all the power in front of him, and Jian Wushuang's figure also stepped out of that vast power. Not dead. So many of us attacked at the same time and failed to kill him, and it looks like he hasn't been hurt much. So what, if we continue to shoot? I don't believe in the ruler of every other rule, can really block so many of us. The masters of these rules who were fainted by greed were ready to take the second round. But Jian Wu's eyes were suddenly cold. You guys, look for death. The sword unparalleled killing intention burst, the right-hand Huangquan divine sword pointed forward in front of the void, and the mighty divine power burst out instantly. Jian Wu. A icy sword shadow swept straight out. This sword shadow looked very thin, and it didn't seem to have much power. But after being pulled out, it was suddenly broken directly. From the original sword shadow, it turned into hundreds of thousands in a short time, only a small sword shadow the size of a silver needle. These tiny sword shadows scattered from the top void. It was as if there was a sudden sword rain between heaven and earth. The speed of this sword rain is extremely fast, so that the rulers directly in front of Jian Wushuang have no time to respond, and these small sword shadows have been submerged in the body of these rulers one after another. The void ahead stopped suddenly. There are more than 80 rulers in this void, but at this moment, the rulers are all staring wide, their eyes full of panic. The next moment, in addition to the 80 rulers, in addition to the two strongest of the 6 realms, who continued to stand there, the others fell silently toward the ground below. They fell to the spot and never stood up again. Under one sword, nearly 80 rulers died on the spot. Frightened. Shocked. The rulers present were numb with scalp when they saw this scene. Originally came from the sword towards Wushuang insanely, but at the moment all the masters of the rules around him stopped. Although they were dazzled by the strongest flying treasure in a short time, they were by no means an idiot and a fool. They also feel scared. Like the scene in front of them, it made them all creepy. Just one sword, killing nearly 80 rulers in an instant. What is this concept? You know, the masters of these rules only add up to more than 700 people. The sword Wushuangyi sword killed nearly 80 people. Doesn't it mean that he only needs 10 swords to almost all the masters of these rules present? Beheaded. How is this possible? The power of a sword is so terrible. Monster, the Lord of the Blood Sword is a monster at all, and we even want to the treasure from his hands. Isn't this to death? The masters of these rules roared their heads, and their madness and longing for the strongest flying treasure were gradually suppressed by reason. Indeed, the treasure is good, but it also needs to have the life to take it. And Sword Wushuang naturally also looked at the changes in the eyes of the rulers of the surrounding rules and expressions, and he could see that the ruler of these rules had been shocked by the sword he just had. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang's heart breathed a sigh of relief. Although the master of these rules, it is difficult to pose a threat to him. Even if he really slaughtered recklessly, with the sword rain he just cast, he could easily kill all the masters of these rules. But if he did, there would be too many offenders. There are more than 700 rulers. These rulers come from various forces, from various astral realms, and some are still behind some big forces, all slaughtered at once. I am afraid he will immediately become the public enemy of this star domain. Although he is not afraid of himself, he will be involved in the horoscope. And now, the rulers of these rules are all deterred by their sword www.tl novel. Without the idea of continuing to fight, it is naturally the best. Fortunately, when I first enlightened under the Zhentian monument, I thought that I might face a siege in the future, and I created this sword rain style. I am afraid that the deterrent effect is not as strong as it is now. Jian Wushuang muttered. The Jianyu style was created when he enlightened under the Zhentian monument. This sword is not too mysterious. The reason why it can kill nearly 80 rulers at one time is mainly because Jian Wushuang's perception of kendo is too high now, and his own divine power is too strong. These strengths the master of the general rule, it is difficult to survive under the sword reign. But anyone who is strong, like the two extremes of the 6 realms, can still save his life in the face of this move. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL, dear. Click in and give a good comment. The higher the score, the faster the update. It is said that a beautiful wife was found at the end of the new score. Chapter 37-38. Second more. With one stroke of sword rain, nearly 80 rulers were killed, and the sword unparalleled deterred all rulers present. Of course, this one does not include the domineering master. Boy, hand over the wings. With a roar, the domineering axe in the golden armor was holding the huge axe alone, but the whole body suddenly skyrocketed. Originally only the size of a normal human being, at best it can only be regarded as a relatively large domineering axe, but it turned into a 10-meter-tall golden giant in an instant. This golden giant exudes a mighty momentum, and his body is so aspirational, as if the killing came out of hell. Demon-like. He stepped out one after another, each step trampled on the void, and if the horrible power outside the void, it would be immediately burst by the trample. In just a few steps, the golden demon transformed by the dominating axe had appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and the huge golden axe in his hand was also cut off in a mighty manner. Wow! With one axe cut out, the huge towering golden axe shadow seems to divide the world into two. The suffocating horror emanated from the shadow of the golden axe, causing the rulers of many surroundings to change color. Sword without double-sided color is also sinking. He could ignore the ruler of all rules present, but he did not dare to ignore this axe master. After all, this is a real, high-powered master. Humph! The sword Wushuang snorted, and the magical power of life and the sky-cutting technique were cast instantly. The willpower given by the laws of the universe also instantly triggered to the extreme. Spark-burning sun. With endless violent sword light, it was cut out instantly and collided directly with the huge golden axe shadow that came from the mighty wave. A loud noise from the clang shook the world. The rulers who watched the battle all felt a sting in their ears, and at the same time, the terrible power swept madly from where the two powers collided. Warla. Endless divine power destroys everything around it. Some of the rulers who are relatively close to each other are affected by this horrible divine power because they are less able to dodge. Almost instantly their body is annihilated, crush and disappear directly into the world. In this scene, everyone took a breath of air. Retreat. Rewind. Just the aftermath, you can easily destroy the ruler of the 6 realms of void. What a terrifying power. It's terrible. The fierce battle at the higher level of is not something I can wait for. Those rulers all retreated to the distance and out of the battlefield. Although they still held a great deal of enthusiasm for the black feathers, even if they were killed at this moment, they did not dare to break into the horrible battlefield in front of them. After all, although treasures are good, they are not as important as life. And in the middle of that battlefield, the two figures were separated again. Jian's eyes were cold, staring at the dominating axe in front of him. The dominating axe dominated his eyes slightly. Good boy, I heard that you defeated Hitami in the front and forced Hitami to run away. Everyone said that you already have a high mastery of combat power, but I haven't taken it seriously, but now I really fight it, even if it is I also have to admit that you do have the high-powered dominance. Even in the high-powered dominance, you are no less weak than me, at least on the power of frontal fighting, said the axe master. Dominated by the axe, as the name suggests, he is extremely domineering. His strongest is also attack, extremely domineering, extremely aggressive attack. But just now he tried his best to hit the axe with Jian Wushuang. As a result, he didn't have a slight advantage. This immediately made him understand that Jian Wushuang was not weaker than him in attack. Domineering axe, that wing has already fallen into my hands, you want to get it, unless it kills me, but do you think you can do it with your strength? Jian Wushuang sneered. I can't kill you, but since the black wings have fallen into your hands, Then you don't want to leave so easily. The axe dominated the domineering Wushuang, and drank sharply. The Lord of the Bloodsword, pick up him axe. Banging. The world shook and the axe dominated his hands and simultaneously raised the golden axe in his hand. In a moment of time, it was a mighty one again, exuding a suffocating axe, and the swords were rolled against each other. The sword has no double-sided color change. One-on-one, he didn't have any fear of dominating the axe. He even did his best to fight it. He tried his best to suppress the axe. However, he just got the black wings, but he didn't have time to tangle with the dominating axe. You know, the strongest flying class was born, and the movement was too big. The entire third continent and even the entire Red Cloud realm were shaken. For the rest of the continent, it is estimated that on the third continent, all the strong are coming here. Even if there is only one dominating axe in front of him, if it is a long time, I am afraid that there will be a second. It was the third master who came to the scene, and it was also a big trouble for him. I can't entangle this domineering axe master. I have to find a way to leave before I say. Jian Wushuang knew very clearly. He didn't fight at all, he just wanted to leave. The dominating axe naturally saw his intentions. Lord of the Bloodsword, do you want to go? How easy is that? The dominating axe gave a low drink, and in the course of fighting against Jian Wushuang, he suddenly turned over and took out a small pyramid. This pyramid exudes an extremely rich and precious atmosphere. The pinnacle of repression. The two-sided color of the sword suddenly changed. At the beginning of the world, suppress everything. The axe dominated the cold eyes, and threw the pyramid in his hand directly into the void above. Suddenly, a splendid golden light burst out from the pyramid, and the pyramid was infinitely enlarged in the sight of everyone present. A layer of hazy golden light also swept towards the surroundings, covering for hundreds of thousands of miles. These hundreds of thousands of miles are covered by this pyramid. Sword Wushuang is naturally covered by this pyramid. Lord of the Bloodsword, you can't escape. My golden tower is the pinnacle of suppression. I use it to suppress the magic array. Short in time, even the top masters can't be broken. It is impossible for you to escape from this repression. Axe-dominated sneer. The sword has no double-sided color and becomes ugly. The power of his soul swept away, and he could also feel the arrogance of the repressive method released by the pyramid. As the master of the axe said, in a short time, he could not break the repressive method, and naturally can't leave from here. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 37-39. The first is more. The Lord of the Bloodsword, don't surrender the black wings, you don't want to leave. The axe master snarled. Axe, you may be too high on yourself, even if you have the highest peak of repression. Even if I can't leave, how can you kill me with your help? Jian's eyes were cold, his face was cold. No fear at all. He just didn't want to be too troublesome, so he wanted to leave the first time. But now that he can't do without it, he has nothing to fear. It's not easy to kill him in this starfield by means of life-saving means. Then try it. The axe master is too lazy to fight with Sword Wushuang. The golden demon he transformed is rushing, the golden axe in his hands is huge, and he is rushing towards the Sword Wushuang madly. Jian Wushuang also met directly. Revealing all strength, even the sword power that the will power given by the law of the universe has fully evoked, the combat power has increased, and the basic divine power is much stronger than the general higher masters. With sword skills, he has no fear fight with the axe to dominate the front. Even during the fight, he still had a slight upper hand. Only a low and terrible roar and impact sounded continuously. The fierce battle between the two was dark. The masters of the many rules watching the surroundings have long been terrified. The Lord of the Bloodsword is so powerful and terrible. It's terrible. The ruler of a rule thought he could possess a high-level dominance is incredible, but did not expect that his strength is stronger than the previous rumors, dominated by the axe. He is strong, and he is axe-dominated and good at fighting, but he fights with the Lord of the Bloodsword, but falls into the wind. The Lord of the Bloodsword, in terms of frontal fighting ability, is even slightly better than the dominator. The rulers were all amazed. While Jian Wushuang and the axe dominated the crazy fight together, there was still a steady stream of strong rushers around. The suppression of the axe dominated by the axe, although it suppresses everything around, making Jian Wushuang unable to leave, but it does not prevent people from coming outside. So, as time passed, more and more powerful men came to this void. After these powerful men arrived, they immediately saw the terrible level in the middle of the battlefield. Frightened, these new rulers quickly figured out what happened, knowing that the strongest flying treasure was in the sword without hands. The strongest flying class treasure is in the hands of the Lord of the Blood Sword. What are you waiting for, everyone? Why don't you wait for me to kill the Blood Sword Master, and then look at each other's ability to compete for the strongest flying class? If the masters of so many of our rules join forces, even if they are the masters, they have to retreat. Someone suggested, shoot together, kill the Lord of the Blood Sword. As soon as this proposal was issued, someone immediately sneered and said, go to you, and forgot to tell you, just now, the Lord of the Blood Sword killed nearly 80 rulers with one sword. What? Those who had just arrived in this void rule were immediately taken aback. One sword killed nearly 80 rulers? This was immediately confirmed, because too many people saw it at the time. With such a result, these new rulers are also much quieter, and no ruler has ever thought about it. Of course, Jian Wushuang's one sword slayed the record of nearly 80 rulers. Although they can deter many rulers, they can't deter the powerful ones. In addition to the overwhelming axe who rushed to the fierce battle with Jian Wushuang at the beginning, soon the second dominating powerhouse also arrived in this void. And the second master arrived, or Jian Wushuang's acquaintance. It was exactly 3,000 years ago that he fought against Jian Wushuang, and those who were defeated by Jian Wushuang could only flee away, and lost all their faces. The Lord of the Blood Sword. As soon as Master Tong came to this void, the faintly red eyes immediately locked in towards Jian Wushuang. On the way, he already learned that the strongest flying class treasure was in the hands of Jian Wushuang, and now Jian Wushuang is fighting with the axe to dominate the madness. The occupation in front made Master Tong understand at a glance. Dominating a person with the axe alone is impossible, and it is impossible for him to surrender the black wings. Without hesitation, Hitami went straight forward. Domineering axe, you and I join forces, and teach this little boy who knows nothing about heaven and earth, Tongzhu whispered. Okay. The axe master nodded. This boy is extremely strong, and his frontal killing ability is not even weaker than me, but no matter how strong he is only a ruler, and his body protection ability should not be strong. You assisted me from the side and killed him at the first opportunity. Okay. Hitami focused his head. They all understand that it is almost impossible for Jian Wushuang to surrender the wings in his hands. In this case, it is only possible to find a way to kill Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang's strength is very strong, after all, he is only a ruler, and his life-saving ability should not be as good as the normal master, which also allows them to see the hope of the sword. Rumble. Endless clouds of blood rolled. The turbulent waves of waves came towards the sword without pressure. Hitami also shot directly, and as soon as he shot, he did his best. He had fought fiercely against Jian Wushuang, and he knew that Jian Wushuang's strength was definitely better than him. Does Hitami? Jian was eyes narrowed, and he glanced at Tongzhu, still not afraid. He is not at all concerned by a single axe. Even if a pupil is added now, he is still not qualified to threaten him. What about the two together? Even if the two masters join forces, with his current strength, it is still enough to compete positively and even suppress both of them. Boom. Jian Wushuang shot with all his strength. Not only did his own power burst into the extreme, most importantly, his swordplay finally broke out. You know, in the understanding of Kendo, he stepped into the origin of the universe of the sword very early, but most of the masters never reached this step. Later, after a long period of time, especially after more than 5,000 years of enlightenment under the Zhentian monument, and more than 3,000 years of research in that sword stone, his understanding of Kendo is getting higher and higher. He, in the origin of the Kendo universe, is really getting started. This kind of Kendo understanding has long surpassed the normal higher masters a lot, even if they are top masters, I am afraid that only a few can reach him. And Kendo's understanding is so high that his accomplishments in swordplay are naturally high. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3740. Second more. I saw the sword unparalleled in the siege of the two masters, the sword was soaring, and the terrible sword light was cut out one after another. That sword light is either violent, or misty like a cloud, or lightning fast. Relying on swordsmanship against two masters at the same time with their own strength, not only are they not in the slightest disadvantage, they even completely suppressed these two masters. Yes, it is suppression. Although the axe dominates the axe, although it is domineering and powerful, it is not too subtle. Before Jian Wushuang hit him, he could gain the upper hand. Now he does not choose to hit him. Instead, he fights with exquisite sword skills. That sword is more than a sword, and the axe dominator can only resist with difficulty. As for the pupil, his strength is much weaker than that of the dominating axe. It is even simpler for him to use his sword. He directly crushes it with thunder-like means. Even with one enemy and two opponents, these two major dominators are still not his opponents. Too strong. Suppressing these two masters with one enemy and two. This is the true strength of the Lord of the Blood Sword. The masters of the many rules watching the battle around, their heads were all in a bun. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that the strength of a ruler would be so strong. Now think about what the axe master and pupil master just said, saying that sword unparalleled is just the master of the rules, the body protection ability should not be strong, you can find the opportunity to kill him, now it is simply joke. The two of them joined forces and were crushed by Jian Wushuang's front. How could they find a chance to kill Jian Wushuang? Even if Jian Wushuang's body protection is not strong, can they meet Jian Wushuang's body? How could that be? How could this be? The axe master shouted with an incredible look on his face. This boy, his swordplay is so terrible. When he fought with me 3,000 years ago, swordplay had not reached such a terrible level. Hitami also screamed. He did not know that during these 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang had been enlightened under the sword stone. Although most of the enlightenment was to perfect the trick of guarding the earth, while he was enlightened, his understanding of kendo was always present ascended, his swordplay has also been enhanced. In addition, 3,000 years ago, when Jian Wushuang fought against him, he didn't do his best. Without all the effort, the pupil can't resist it. Earth and earthquake. Jian Wushuang's terrible strength stunned everyone present. Those rulers who watched the surroundings had some illusions about the strongest flying treasure, but now they have seen the horror power revealed by Jian Wushuang. Even the two masters joined forces directly by Jian Wushuang. Crushing. This scene made those rulers have no idea about the black wings. The two masters joined forces and were both suppressed by the Lord of the Blood Sword. Could it be that the third lord had to come in person to hope to subdue the Lord of the Blood Sword? The third master? Everyone moved inside. But just then. Come, here comes the third master, an exclaimed voice suddenly sounded. The crowd immediately heard the sound, and saw a blue figure in the void near the front of the battlefield. It was a beautiful woman in a blue pigment robe. This beautiful woman had a cold face, as if she could not eat the fireworks on the earth, and a touch of divine power spread from her. Although this breath of divine power is very weak, we can detect the breath of this divine power. All the people present are physically and mentally shocked. Even in the battlefield, Jian Wushuang, dominating Axe Master, and Hitami Master, who were fighting fiercely together, all changed dramatically when they noticed this breath of God. Nothing else, just because this breath of divine power is much stronger than the divine breath of general higher masters. There is no doubt that the comer is a top master, herald. It is the supreme master of Tianqi Star Realm. It turned out to be her. The body of many rulers around the place shuddered. The supreme master, unlike many masters in this star domain, has a long existence and a long history of fame. She is a master who has not risen for a long time, and so far, it is only 1,000,000 years. It has only taken her hundreds of thousands of years since she was born to practice and now ranks among the top masters. No doubt she is a real genius. Tianqi astral realm, like the Taichu divine realm, is only a third-level astral realm that has not yet fully evolved. Easy to provoke. After all, it's a real top master. In this starfield, aside from His Holiness, the top masters who are known and still remain in this starfield will never exceed 5. Such a master is certainly awesome. Haha, His Majesty has come, and now you are not worried that no one has subdued you. Master Tong stared at Jian Wushuang and sneered. Well, even if the Supreme Master can subdue me, I will only give him the black wings. As for the pupil and the axe master, you too, don't think about it. Jian Wushuang is sneer. Dominating the axe and Haitamis' eyes immediately sink. Of course they longed for the black wings. However, what Jian Wushuang said is also true. The Supreme Master has arrived, and the top dominates the strength. Although it is possible to subdue it, even if it is subdued, Jian Wushuang will definitely only give the black wings to the Supreme Master. Give them both. And if the black feathers are in the hands of His Holiness, they are afraid that they have no desire to fight. Grab the treasure from the top masters. That was a joke. You are the Lord of the Blood Sword. The Supreme Master stood on the edge of the battlefield and did not enter the battlefield for the first time, but stared coldly at Jian Wushuang. It's me. The 3 masters, Jian Wushuang and Doha, also stopped. Jian Wushuang smiled. The Supreme Master also came for that wing. Yes. His Excellency nodded. The strongest flying treasure is not something you can own. Give up that wing. This promises to give you one of the strongest attack treasures and 1 pinnacle suppression, a pinnacle soul defense, a pinnacle flying treasure is compensation. Oh! Jian Wushuang frowned and nodded secretly. I have to say that this young man is quite kind, and he didn't take the shot directly at the beginning, but he was willing to exchange it for the treasure. Although she is willing to pay the highest price, not as good as one of the strongest flying treasures, it is also very good. But unfortunately, I finally got the chance to get one of the strongest flying treasures. Of course, Jian Wushuang would not let it go so easily. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version reading URL. Chapter 3741. The first is more. Sir, I'm sorry, this flying strongest treasure is also very useful to me, so I can't promise you. Jian Wushuang Dao. Don't you promise? The Supreme Master's face remained unchanged, then I can only be sorry. Why, the Supreme Master of the Supreme Master, even today, regardless of the face of the ruler of me cannot shoot. Jian Wushuang laughed. You are really just the master of the rules, but in terms of combat power, you are suppressed by the combination of the Dominator and the Hitami masters. This kind of combat power is not far from the top masters. This block shoots at you, and how can it be considered disregarding face? His Holiness' voice was cold. But after all, this seat is the top master, and I will not bully you. So, you take 3 shots from me. If you are not hit by me after 3 shots, this seat will immediately turn around and leave. Oh! Jian Wushuang frowned, but his heart was amused. This youth appears to be affectionate. As long as he was not seriously injured under the 3 shots, he left for convenience. But in fact, the really smart people know that the 3 shots of the Supreme Master will inevitably make every effort to fully burst out the strongest combat power of her top master. Under these 3 shots, if the sword unparalleled is unstoppable, and is directly beheaded or severely wounded, the Supreme Master will still continue to shoot. But if these 3 shots were blocked by the sword Wushuang, but not severely damaged, even the strongest attack could not severely damage the sword Wushuang, it means that the Supreme Master could not kill the sword Wushuang at all. Of course she can only leave. In other words, the Supreme Master said these words not to open the internet at all, but to speak nicely. If she is really jealous of her top master's identity, then it should be said that within 3 shots, the sword is undead, and she immediately turned around and left. And just not to be hit hard by her. Can be severely damaged, indicating that the Supreme Master has the ability to kill Zhenshuang. Can't be badly hit, and the Supreme Master can do nothing about the sword unparalleled. You, Lord, What you say is so nice. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, but then nodded. Okay, let me see how strong the top master is. Jian Wushuang also has a glimmer of expectation in his heart. The top master, he has also contacted, that is the Tianpeng master of Beihai Palace. At that time, Tianpeng's master had also shot at him, but that time, Tianpeng's master had been reserved, and he had not given up all his strength at all. In addition, at that time Jian Wushuang's own strength was still relatively weak, and he couldn't fully feel the gap between himself and Tianpeng. But now it's different. Sir, cast your marksmanship. Jian Wushuang held Huangquan's Excalibur with one hand, and his divine power surged wildly. In the face of a top master, he naturally will not have the slightest indifference, and with all his strength, the power given by the laws of the universe has erupted to the extreme. The Supreme Master looked indifferently, turned his hand, and a silver spear appeared in her hand. This silver spear is 2 meters long. At the moment it appeared in the hands of the Supreme Lord, a cold chill swept away instantly. The surrounding void was immediately condensed into ice under the cold attack. Become extremely cold. So cold gun. Jian Wushuang glanced at the silver spear in the hands of the Supreme Lord. There is no doubt that the silver spear in the hands of the Supreme Lord is the strongest magic weapon. Pure power is never weaker than its own Huangquan Excalibur. Lord of the Blood Sword, optimistic, this is the first shot. The Supreme Master's voice dropped, and the silver spear in his hand stabbed straight ahead. The silver light flashed, and Sen Lung's spear swept across the void. Wherever he passed, the space instantly condensed into ice. The heavens and the earth were immediately darkened and dark. And in this dim world, there is only this dazzling silver light, which is extremely dazzling and exudes a cold luster. So fast. There was a flash of surprise in Jian Wu's eyes. This shot was too fast. Almost instantaneously pierced through the void before him, he didn't even have time to carefully sense the power of the gun. Too late to think, sword Wushuang directly out of the sword. Spark burning sun. Jian Wushuang's divine power exploded, and the sky-cutting technique was immediately cast, and his strength burst to the extreme at this moment. The violent Zhenguang cut out instantly, colliding with that silver light with the horror of power. Clang! With a loud noise, the sword trembled without a figure, and the figure was backed up several steps in succession. Each step was heavy and powerful, trampled on the void. But there is no doubt that this gun, Jian Wushuang, is the next. Moreover, he relied on swordsmanship to resist it. Although it was completely suppressed, it was finally blocked, and there was not much power to impact him. Yes, you can rely on sword power to defend this gun from the front. This has proven that your strength is the top even among the high masters. However, it is not enough to rely on this strength alone. Look. His Holiness said indifferently. Sir, no need to talk nonsense, I have already taken your first shot. Next, let me look at your second shot. Jian Wushuang said with some excitement. The first shot that His Holiness had just cast had already amazed Jian Wushuang's heart, and he was indeed the top master. Just that shot, it is clear that the Supreme Master was only casually exhibiting, and did not show much strength at all, but despite this, he still easily defeated and completely suppressed the star-burning sun he cast. The second shot that the Supreme Master is about to cast is definitely stronger. Second shot, you are optimistic. There was a trace of coldness in the blue eyes of the Supreme Master. Before the first shot, he just stabbed a shot at the front very randomly, but this second shot, during the process of casting, wow. A lot of ice condense in front of her out of thin air. A suffocating forest cold chill spread. The Lord's silver spear, as well as the palm of her holding the lance, were covered with frost, and a cold air spit out from the Lord's mouth. The spear is another stab. This thorn, Ka. The surrounding area is completely condensed into ice and snow. The silver lance also turns into a huge ice cone, carrying a terrifying penetration force. Chao Jian Wushuang stabbed. This shot, simply talking about power, is definitely several times stronger than the first shot just now. Swords burst into sharp eyes. He held Huangquan's Excalibur at the same time with both hands. Wow! A sword is cut out, and the void is completely chaotic. There was no roar or explosive sound, and the sword that Wu Shuangshuang cut out at this moment did not seem to have such terrible power. Of course, the magic sword fell, but an icy sword light directly cut the space relentlessly, ruthlessly tore everything in front, tore the ice and snow, and ruthlessly chopped the huge ice cone. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3742. Second More. Huang Quan. The strongest sword created by Jian Wushuang. If the sun-burning sun is extremely violent, and the explosive power bursts out, then this falling Huang Quan is cold and ruthless. This cold and ruthless sword seems to cut through everything that is encountered. No one, nothing, can block its edge. In this sword, there is a breath of the law of the universe. It is precisely because of the existence of a breath of the laws of the universe that this sword might be so terrifying. In the early days of the divine realm, Jian Wushuang fought against Emperor 13 Kendo. In the end, Jian Wushuang defeated Emperor 13's sword system and won the victory. But the distance of that battle has now passed more than 8,000 years, and in these 8,000 years, Jian Wushuang first learned 5,000 years under that town's monument, and then studied under the swordstone for 3,000 years. His progress in Kendo was huge, and the mastery of the laws of the universe was more intense. The power of nature as a sword is far from being comparable. This sword. The pupil who watched the battle around, saw the sword skill that Jian Wushuang was casting at the moment, and his face changed suddenly. He clearly remembered that 3,000 years ago, Jian Wushuang cast his sword and vomited blood directly. You know, he has the strongest armor of the treasure, but he still vomits blood, but imagine how good the sword might be. But now seeing the sword unparalleled again, the power of swordsmanship is even stronger than before. I have to say that the sword is truly powerful. At least the domineering axe dominated that he could not perform such a level of attack. However, what Jian Wushuang is facing now is, after all, a real top master. The top dominator's combat power, but you are far stronger than the higher master. I saw Nathan's cold and horrifying ice cone blasting, and that swordless pair of cold and ruthless Zhenguang came into direct contact. The sound of divine power squeezing the impact sounded, and the final result was still the sword light of Jian Wushuang being crushed. The cold and ruthless sword light also supported for a period of time, but it completely dissipated, while the ice cone still carried good power and directly hit the sword's godless body. Jian's stature was violent, and the whole person was blasted out. After a while, it was difficult to stand firm in the void again. After standing firmly, Jian Wushuang raised his head and stared at His Holiness, and he couldn't help but admire. It is indeed the top master, it is amazing. Jian Wushuang is truly amazing. One of his most terrible and confident swords is Huang Quan's. After all, this is a sword with the breath of the laws of the universe. The mighty power is outrageous, but unfortunately, the top master is much stronger than him simply in divine power, and the supreme master's shot was just as powerful. Therefore, he is still being crushed. However, the crushing returned to crushing, but the power left by that shot did not cause him much damage. Normally, Jian Wushuang first has the peak of the Arcana Warframe, and at the same time he has cultivated the supreme immortal Shen body. The body is comparable to the arcane, indestructible. If that shot is not offset by most of his power, and impact words on his body might also hurt him. But with the blocking of the sword, the damage that this gun brought him was minimal, and Jian Wushuang didn't care. My shot, although he resisted with his sword, weakened most of the power, but still had more than 30% of the power directly impacted on his body, but under the impact of more than 30% of the power, he turned a little not at all. The breath of divine power on his body has hardly weakened. The Supreme Master Liu Mai finally wrinkled. The two masters watching around, including the masters of many rules, were surprised when they saw this scene. How is that possible? The Lord of the Blood Sword was clearly hit by the Supreme Master's marksmanship, but why was he not injured? The gun power, although the sword of the Lord of the Blood Sword offset more than half of it, there are still more than 30% of the power left. The top dominates more than 30% of the power. Under normal circumstances, the higher masters have to bear and have to be injured, even severely damaged. The Lord of the Blood Sword and the ruler of the rules are as good as nothing. Isn't he saying that he is a ruler, where is the body not strong? But now it seems that his body is much stronger than the General Master. There was a loud noise that rang through the world. Indeed, in the past, almost everyone believed that although Jian Wushuang's attack power was comparable to that of higher masters, and even the highest among the higher masters, his protection ability should not be stronger. It is because of this that the Dominator and Dojo masters feel that there is a hint of hope to be able to slay the sword unparalleled. But now, in this scene, where does the Lord of the Blood Sword look like he is weak in body protection? The top master has a positive impact of more than 30% power. He relies on the gods to resist, but he has nothing at all. Is this kid in disguise? He has been seriously injured, but is pretending to be nothing? A ruler could not help but say. But as soon as his words were finished, there were a lot of fool-like eyes around him. Yes, demeanor can be disguised, but the breath of divine power on the body can't be disguised. If a person is severely wounded, the breath of divine power on his body will inevitably weaken a great deal, but the breath of divine power on Jian Wushuang will be slightly weakened. The Lord of the Blood Sword, it seems that this seat is a contempt for you. You, a ruler, not only attack and kill powerful enough to match the High Master, even the body protection ability, you are much stronger than the General Master. This body protection ability, the top dominates the following. I am afraid that no one can do anything for you. Qingzuan Shen said. Her words immediately attracted the approval of many powerful people around. Indeed, when Jian Wushuang became the most important of the supreme immortal mystery, he was destined to be rampant in the higher masters, but still cannot be ignored in the face of the top masters. They want to get the strongest treasure of his armor for him. If he has the strongest armor of the treasure warrior, and the sturdy body of the sword unparalleled, then even if he encounters the top master, he will have no fear at all. Lord of the Blood Sword, next, this seat is about to fire a third shot. The Supreme Master shook the silver spear in the handshake, and his eyes became sharper. This seat says it can do it. If it can't damage you, this seat will immediately turn away and never leave again. There is a slight entanglement. Remember the first domain name in this book. Jiutian God Emperor Mobile Version Reading URL. Chapter 3743. The first is more. Bring it on. Jian Wushuang tightened the Huangquan Excalibur in his hands, full of expectations. The two shots previously cast by the Supreme Master were outrageous. Jian Wushuang had already performed the strongest sword skill, and was still crushed by the front. Now, how strong is the third shot that the Supreme Master is about to cast? The masters of the many rules watching the battle around also looked forward. They also want to see the strongest shot of His Holiness. God punished. The Supreme Master chuckled coldly, humming. The vast pure power that only the top masters possessed instantly swept out. At the moment when this pure divine power swept out, the breath of divine power exuded from the Supreme Master was weakened a little more than before. Although not much weakened, it was weakened. Obviously, the strongest shot will be cast, and the Supreme Master is not easy. The world is silent. Under everyone's attention, the Supreme Lord slowly stretched out the silver spear in his hand. The silver spear turned into a silver lightning, but suddenly it exploded under the confluence of majestic power. The rumbling was originally a normal-sized silver spear, but at this moment it was zoomed in at a horrible speed, and it stretched a long length in a blink of an eye. Easily pierced through the space, straight toward the sword Wushuang. For a moment, the whole world sounded a harsh sound boom. Jian Wushuang stood in the void in front of the spear, saw the spear zoomed in, and then stabbed towards himself. At this moment, he seemed to be caught in a violent storm. His silver robe and hair were all blown. Hunting sounded. So terrible power. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly, his heart was very surprised. He just took the first shot and the second shot of His Holiness. Although the two shots are also arrogant, far beyond his own ability, at least the sword is unmatched. But the third shot, the moment he stabbed him, gave him a feeling that he could not compete. This gun can completely crush everything. Although he also created a good sword, But no matter how much power he broke out, in the face of this gun, there is only a complete defeat. Jian Wushuang also immediately understood that with this shot, he could not use his sword skills to confront him. But being unable to compete directly does not mean that Jian Wushuang cannot resist. Such a terrible and powerful shot just made me examine the achievements of my 3,000 years. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly, his eyes flashed. Guardian of the Earth. The sword is unparalleled. Huang Quan's Excalibur seems to be just cut out randomly, but it has a special mystery. Buzzing. A large number of swords meanwhile, with a large amount of earth-colored energy, it instantly rises. The protection of the earth is based on the rules of the earth. Earth, heavy, nostalgic. Cooperating with Jian Wushuang's accomplishments on the kendo instantly, a heavy earth-colored sword domain was formed. Sword Realm, Earth Sword Realm. And after the emergence of a major area of sword area, the second and third major areas of sword area immediately formed. Almost in a blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang gathered the sword area of 12 major areas in front of him. The land sword domain is the product of my perfect combination of the rules of the earth and the origin of the kendo universe. It has a very strong body protection ability. A single major land sword domain is logically enough to easily resist the full blow of the primary master. At the same time, condensed the 12 major sword areas at the same time, plus the endless mood that I incorporated into this style. I would like to see if I can stop this shot. Jian Wuzhong Zhongjing Man's flash. Boom. The long silver spear containing the mighty power of destroying the heavens and the earth finally stabbed. The first time I stabbed on the earthy sword area directly in front of Jian Wushuang. In just an instant, the 12 major sword areas collapsed to sevenfold and collapsed more than half. Immediately followed again, After two sounds, the 8th and 9th major sword areas also collapsed. But starting from the 10th major sword area, the momentum of that spear's impact slowed down significantly. The 10th major territory of the sword was still defeated. The 11th major area of swordsmanship persisted for a while and was finally defeated as well. At the 12th level, which is the last major sword area, the spear still hit the 12th major sword area for a period of time, but in the end, it failed to completely defeat the 12th major sword area, the huge spear. He paused in the void, and his power was completely exhausted. The long silver spear has dissipated and reappeared in the hands of the Supreme Master. But at this moment, the Supreme Master Qing was horrified and unbelievable. Not only her, but also the Axe Masters, Hitami Masters, and the many Rule Masters who watched the surrounding battles were completely annihilated at this moment. In the previous two shots, although Jian Wushuang resisted, the discerning people could see that Jian Wushuang was not easy to resist. Now the third shot is also the strongest shot of the Supreme Master. In order to cast this shot, she has paid a certain price. This shot is enough to completely crush Jian Wushuang, at least it can also make Jian Wushuang subject to a certain degree of harm. But the results have surprised everyone. This strongest shot was resisted by Jian Wushuang intact. Such a horrible shot couldn't really impact his body. Just the earthy strange power that emerged in front of Jian Wushuang completely resisted the power of this shot, even his body. There is no slight retreat in shape. How is this possible? Hitami could not help but screamed. What is that power, anyway? The dominating axe stared at Jian Wushuang. At this moment, the Supreme Master of Qing Dynasty also set off a huge wave in his heart. She stared hard at Jian Wushuang, remembering the scene just now. That power is the treasure? No. www.mtlnovel. That kind of feeling is not supreme, but swordplay? Yes, it's swordplay. The blue sage's eyes narrowed. A ruler, the sword guard of the body, cast a shot at this strongest god, completely blocking it. The Supreme Master could hardly believe that it was true. But the truth is right here. Your honor, let it go. Jian Wushuang also spoke at this time, with a smile on his face and a deep breath in his heart. 3,000 years of swordstone enlightenment. I spent most of the 3,000 years in perfecting the guardianship of the earth. In the end, I was able to condense the 12 major sword domains at the same time, and I was stronger than one. It turns out that these 3,000 years I wasn't in vain. Jian Wushuang's heart was also extremely excited. Chapter 3744. Second more. 3,000 years ago, when he first arrived in the Red Cloud realm, the trick he created to protect the earth was still immature, but it was worthy of a major sword area. And the earth at that time was extremely pure. But in the past 3,000 years, he has studied and studied under that sword stone. The great Emperor sword realm that can be united to this day is already 12-fold. The most important thing is that the 12 major areas of the sword realm also carry a force. The endless moods are perfectly combined to make these 12 major sword areas more tenacious. After reaching this step, although Jian Wushuang knows that his sword's body protection ability should be extremely good, at least the attack at the higher level of the master level can be completely resisted. As for whether the attack at the top level can be blocked, he's not sure. But now he really fights with the top masters, and the Supreme Master in front of him also took out his strongest strength and cast his strongest shot, but he failed to break all of his 12 major sword areas, which made the sword warriors are almost surprised. Qing Zun's strongest shot could not completely break the 12 major sword areas, which shows that the defense ability of the Earth Guard is much stronger than he imagined. During the 3,000 years of enlightenment, he did not waste it. Unlike Jian Wushuang's excitement, the people around him have long been shocked. The Lord of the Blood Sword. The Supreme Master also looked back at Jian Wushuang again, and the emotion on his face also slowly converged, and he returned to the old coldness. You are the master of the rules, and the combat power is not weaker than that of the higher master. I did not expect you is even more frightening. Not only has an extremely powerful body, you can directly resist the attack of 30% of this seat without damage, and you also know such terrible body swordsmanship. With this sword body swordsmanship, even if it is the top master, there are only a handful of people who are qualified to kill you. At least some of the top masters in this star domain should have no such ability. The Supreme Master said this with her own feelings, at least she thought so. But when she said this, the void around her immediately caused a violent commotion. Oh my God, the Supreme Lord said that this star field, no one can kill the Lord of the Blood Sword. This is also normal. I haven't seen the Supreme Master cast his strongest shot, but he was blocked by the sword of the Blood Sword intact. Is there such a sword of sword, plus on top of his mighty body, some of the top masters of this star domain, if they don't join hands, one-on-one, I am afraid no one can help him. The Lord of the Blood Sword, the ruler of every area, the fighting power is as powerful as the High Master. I did not expect that his life-saving ability is even more incredible. It is a monster. Before we even wanted to kill such a monster to fight for the wings in his hands. It was just daydreaming. The sounds of astonishment sounded one after another. The Supreme Lord spoke again, the Lord of the Blood Sword, although you are only the Lord of the Rules, but with such overbearing strength and life-saving means, it should be that the strongest flying gem is in your hands. You are qualified to occupy that kind of arcane. Having said that, the Supreme Master solemnly looked at Jian Wushuang, and even if he turned, he obviously intended to leave directly. But when she left, she glanced at the dominating axe next to her. "Ba axe, your repressor Jibao has been suppressing here. Could it be that you want to keep this seat together?" The axe dominated the front. He had previously used the repression class Jibao to suppress this void, just to prevent the swordsman from fleeing, and did not intend to stop the Supreme Master. But now that the Supreme Master is leaving, of course, he is also restricted by his repressive class treasure. The dominating axe glanced at His Holiness Qing, and then looked at Jian Wushuang, sighing at the bottom of his heart. I used to think that the Lord of the Blood Sword was just the Lord of the Rules anyway. Even though his combat strength is not weak, his ability to protect his life should not be strong. As long as a few more masters join forces, he can be sure to kill him. Of course, I did not expect that the Lord of the Blood Sword's body has a strong hair-saving ability, especially the body sword that has just been cast, and even the Supreme Master is helpless. I am a High Master and have no chance at all. The dominating axe shook his head and did not insist any more. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew the surrounding empty repression squad. After the repression of the retreat, the Supreme Master left directly. The Supreme Master has already left. Why, you two are still planning to stay and continue to be stupefied by me? Jian Wushuang looked at Doha and Dozhu with interest. The Dominator Axe glanced at Hitami. The Lord of the Blood Sword, you are terrific. The Lord of the Axe said aloud, then turned and left. There is a flash of sharpness in the pupil's head. There is a festival between him and Jian Wushuang. If there is a chance, he will naturally take the fight against Jian Wushuang without hesitation, but now in this occasion, the Supreme Master and the Axe dominated, leaving him alone. Wu Shou has only been thoroughly crushed, he naturally did not dare to stay more. Soon, the three masters all left one after another. Even the masters left, and those rulers around them didn't have any idea of scrambling, and soon they all left. The battle for the strongest flying treasure has finally come to an end here. In the Red Cloud Realm, above the void of the third continent, the sword Wusuo slowly moved forward. He had two summons of communication in his hand, one of the Lord of the Heavens and the other of the Lord of Time and Space. Tianhu Xiaoyu, admire, admire, rule the rule with one enemy two, dominate the two with the axe and dominate the pupil, and also receive 3 shots of the Supreme Master in front of you lost, and the strongest shot cast by His Holiness paid a certain price, he couldn't break your body sword, which really made me wait for the Lord to be ashamed. Originally, the Master of Space and Time knew that Jian Wushuang had received the lightest flying treasure, and was coming at the fastest speed. But on the way he received news that Jian Wushuang's crisis had been lifted, and for a few reasons, he knew the process of the previous war. Even if it is the Lord of Time and Space who has some understanding of Jian Wushuang, he cannot help but marvel. Indeed, the Supreme Lord is a real top master. Her strongest shot didn't even break your body sword, Sword Heaven. When did your body sword become like this? Domineering? The Alliance Master could not help asking. Chapter 3745. The first is more. It's true, in the past 3,000 years, I did not search for the treasure on the third continent, but I have been learning about the sword technique under the sword stone. Among the 4 sword techniques of the sword stone, there is an extremely deep protection. Body swordsmanship, I have been enlightened for a full 3,000 years, and then I have continued to improve the body swordsmanship that I have created to the point where I am now. Jian Wushuang Dao. Is that so? No wonder I've been summoned to you before. You keep saying that you are enlightening. It turned out that you were enlightening on such swordsmanship. The Lord of the Heavens and the Lord of Space and Time are also aware. By the way, Tianhu Xiaoyu, the strongest flying class treasure is now in your hands, and you should hurry up and look at it. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded, temporarily interrupted the communication with the two, and then found a quiet place and took out the black wings. The black feathered wings are cold and extremely cold. This wing is also covered with complex and mysterious secret patterns, which are invisible even to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, even though Xian started trying to refine the black wings. At the beginning of refining, there was a resistance immediately. Sure enough. Jian Wushuang frowned, not surprised. Arcana, even if it is a general level, is not easy to refining. If you want to refining it, you must meet the requirements of this treasure. At the strongest level of the universe, the threshold for refining will be higher. Like the Sword Warrior's Huangquan Excalibur, the strongest cosmic treasure, the conditions are extremely harsh, but fortunately, when Sword Warrior obtained Huangquan Excalibur, he had entered the origin of the universe of the sword. At that time, he had reached the refinement of Huangquan Excalibur. Requirements: this is relatively easy to refine Huangquan Excalibur. But this black wing, as the strongest flying treasure, has a higher theoretical value than Huangquan Excalibur, and the threshold for refining is naturally higher. However, Jian Wushuang's current strength is far from being comparable. This black feather refining requirement seems to have something to do with the laws of the universe. As Jian Wushuang studied, he soon learned the threshold for refining the black wings, and he just reached it. It didn't take long for him to refine the black wings. As soon as the refining was completed, he immediately got the information of this black wing. Xian Guang Tiani, the strongest flying class treasure. Xian Guang Shi Tianyi? That's a good name. Jian Wushuang muttered. Like ordinary flying and armored armors, this black light wing also has 3 different powers, and it also contains 2 major secrets. The first is the triple power, which is higher than the first, but the conditions for triggering are also more difficult than the first. The first important power is to be able to induce the existence of the laws of the universe with extreme clarity. The second important power is to realize a trace of the law of the universe. The third important power is that it requires a certain level of understanding of the laws of the universe before it can be triggered. The law of the universe. The conditions under which Shuangguang Di Tianyi evoked turned out to be related to the laws of the universe. The higher the awareness of the laws of the universe, the stronger the power of the priming. Jian Wushuang secretly wondered, but immediately he understood. The strongest cosmic treasure, and also a special treasure like flying, is indeed eligible for the origin of the universe. With the triple power of Shuangguang and Tianyi, Jian Wushuang now meets the requirements for the first power. The first power, as long as he can clearly sense the existence of the law of the universe, and this step, when he first came to him in the law of the universe, he has already reached. And he has now grasped the breadth of the law of the universe. Speaking of which, he now not only meets, but even exceeds the requirement of priming the first power. It's just the second power of Shen Guang's Tianyi, and then he really needs to understand a bit of the law of the universe. This is far away for Jian Wushuang. Try this first power first. There was a flash of fierce flicker in the sword's eyes, and the black wings in his hand instantly merged into his body surface, but then spread out behind him. The huge black wings exude a special mysterious wave. With the sword's thoughts, the first power can be triggered instantly. Alas, a fierce show of wings. Call out. I saw a streamer rushing out in an instant, but in the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in the void 10,000 miles away. This speed. Jian Wushuang's figure stopped in the void, but his gaze was a little excited. Too fast, this is too fast. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. It's too fast. Just in a blink of an eye, he flew 100,000 miles directly. You must know that this is in the red cloud realm, where the heavens and the earth are under immense restrictions. It is not as unscrupulous as the divine realm in the early days. Traveling 100,000 miles in the blink of an eye, this terrifying speed, even if it is the top master, is so. My speed was also relatively fast before, and it would never be inferior to the ordinary master, but compared with the speed at which I now ignite Shuangguang Wu Tianyi, it is almost a wit. It's too fast. Even if it's the top master, it's probably not as fast as I am. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He doesn't know how fast a top lord bursts out with all his strength, but he can also make a basic judgment. Besides, let us say that the previous pupil, when facing himself, could not perform the life-saving technique when facing himself escape. That speed is scary. However, the speed at which the pupil Zhu was performing the life-saving mystery at that time was definitely not as fast as his current self, and definitely much slower than himself. Thus, he can probably infer. He knew before that, with the strongest flying treasure, his speed could definitely be greatly increased. But he did not expect that this increase in speed would be so much as it all at once, even faster than the speed of ordinary top masters. Moreover, this is only the first power of Shen Guanjiu Tianyi. If there is a chance in the future, he will realize a trace of the law of the universe and evoke the second power of Shuangguang Yu Tianyi. Not faster. Second-level power. There was a glimmer of expectation in Jian Wu's eyes. The threshold for Zhuangguang's Tianyi's second prestige to trigger is to realize a trace of the law of the universe. This cosmic law, under normal circumstances, only the supreme superpowers are qualified to enlighten, but this is only under normal circumstances. Jian Wushuang knows that many things in this world and this huge universe cannot be inferred by common sense, such as those evils that cannot be inferred by common sense. Those terrible talents can understand a trace of the universe at the level of the master, or even more, it is not impossible to master a trace of the universe at the level of the master of the rules. Chapter 3746. Second more. Although Jian Wushuang will not be blindly confident that he can compare with the unbelievable evil in the universe, it is always a hope. This is just the basic power of Shuangguang Yantianyi. This Shuangguang Yantianyi also contains two secret techniques. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. Xian Guangxi Tianyi comes with two major mysteries, namely Shuangguang Phantom and Shuangguang Realm. Shuangguang Phantom is a mysterious spell performed by Shuangguang Yantianyi. As for the Shuangguang Realm, just like its name, it is naturally a heavy field of Zhuangguang's celestial wings. Both of these two mysteries are performed together with Shuangguang Yantianyi, and their power is naturally extraordinary. However, Jian Wushuang of these two secret techniques also need to be enlightened before they can be exhibited. One body method, one domain method, hoping to surprise me. With a smile on his face, Jian Wushuang sat down and began to enlighten these two secret techniques. A flash, 10 years have passed. Red clouds rolling in the vast void, oh, The ghostly streamer illusions flickered in the void. Each flash, when it reappeared, was already in the void hundreds of feet away, and there was almost no interval between the flashes. Countless phantoms flickered. At half a moment, all these phantoms dissipated, and in the most central void, the figure of Jian Wushuang gradually formed. Unbelievable, the mystery of the body in this Shuangguang Piantianyi is incredible. It's better to describe it as a body rather than a body. The sword's eyes twinkled with a strong light. During the 10 years of enlightenment, he has mastered the two mysteries of Shuangguang Phantom and Shuangguang Realm respectively. And just now he was performing the Black Light Phantom, which seems to be the body magic, but in fact, every flash of this Black Light Phantom is directly moved from one void to another. It is like the space-time movement in the space-time magic created by the Lord of Space-Time. The difference is that time and space shift is a life-saving mystery, which can be transmitted from a distance based on the space coordinates left. Although this mysterious life-saving ability is strong, it is only useful to ordinary rulers. After all, this mystery will be limited by time and space. Once someone can cast time and space imprisonment, then this time and space movement cannot be cast at all. And the current strength of Jian Wushuang can threaten him and be eligible to let him escape. At least he is the master. Even if he is not good at the rules of time and space, he certainly has treasures in space and time. Can easily cast time and space. So this time and space shift has no use for the current sword Wushuang. However, the near-body movements performed in this mystic light phantom are not affected by the restraint of time and space. Even if it is only a short-range movement of time and space, each movement can only be hundreds of feet, up to a few tens of miles, but this mystic light phantom can be used continuously. Imagine that if Jian Wushuang was in a close fight with a master, he would perform this secret technique, move directly near the master, change the position, and that master could basically not capture his specifics. Location. The fight between the two men, from the beginning, he was able to stand invincible by this method. This mystery is worthy of being performed in conjunction with the strongest flying class treasure, Xian Guangju Tianyi, but it works. Jian's eyes were full of surprise. As for the mysterious realm, the sword Wushuang's expression moved, and the secret lines on the body of Zhuangguang's wing Tianyi wing lit up instantly, and the time rushed. A lot of dark streamers burst out from the wing. These dark streams are sweeping out. In the blink of an eye, it covered the range of tens of thousands of miles around, so that the range of tens of thousands of miles was completely trapped in the dark streamer field. Shuangguang Realm, although it is a mystery, its movement and appearance are just like the normal realm-like shock. As for the power, realm, oppression, Jian Wushuang whispered, and instantly, in the huge streamer field, there was a terrible oppression. This oppression, oppressed above the void, the space began to tremble madly. The oppressive effect in this field is very strong. Jian Wushuang is at the center of the field. Mastering this field, he can naturally clearly sense the oppressive power in this field. He felt for the first time that the oppressive effect of this mysterious realm seemed not to be inferior to the general domain top peak treasure, or even stronger than the general domain top peak treasure. Just like his own magic sand realm, it is the top-class realm of treasure, but it is a bit inferior to the mysterious realm at this moment. However, We must know that the Shuangguang realm is only a mysterious technique performed by Shuangguang Yantianyi, and it is not a domain treasure. This mystery can be perfectly combined with the realm of the realm. Magic Sand Realm, out. The sword Wushuang's thoughts moved, and the black quicksand of time was also directly impacted. It also permeated the range of tens of thousands of miles and did not conflict with the black streamer of the sky, but the two perfectly combined. Shuangguang Realm and Mosha Realm are a perfect combination. Time. Boom boom. The terrifying realm of power broke out, and the black frosting surrounding the streamer slammed wildly. At this instant, the realm of oppression was much stronger than before, whether it was the magic sand realm or the mysterious realm. This power. Jian eyes had ecstasy that could not be concealed. He hadn't expected that the mystery contained in this Shuangguang Piantiani would be so arrogant. The streamer phantom just surprised him. And this mysterious realm even surprised him. This is the domain secret technique combining its own magic sand field. It has formed a more terrifying field, which is far stronger than the peak field. You know, the realm of the field is extremely powerful in the battle of the strong. The strength of the domain class treasure can completely allow a practitioner to take the initiative in the fierce battle with his opponent. Like before, when Jian Wushuang and the axe dominated the battle for Shuangguang Shentiani at the same time, he immediately cast the magic sand field to limit the speed of the axe dominated. Unfortunately, the axe dominated also had the top-level domain class treasure, two major areas. Impact on each other, no one can limit to whom. However, if he had a stronger field class treasure at that time, then he could suppress the field dominated by the axe, so that his speed and strength were greatly reduced, and he could more easily get the Shuangguang Yaotianyi. Keep everyone waiting, sorry. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.